Okay.
Yes.
Right. Shavua Tov, everyone.
Shavua Tov.
So,
Jeffrey has just arrived, just in time to do some reading for us. We are in Shmuel Aleph, chapter 27. Don't expect that you remember where we were up to. I certainly had no idea where we were up to until last night when I looked at the end of the last recording to see where we were up to. And where we're up to is chapter 27. And it is where David has gone to Achish, the king of the Plishtim, and he has run away, as it were, from Shaul yet again, despite the fact that they had this so-called reconciliation. And he's gone to Achish, and he has, for the second time, remember, the first time was when he pretended to be a Meshuggah, remember? Back, he started to dribble down his beard, and Achish said, get rid of him. I've got enough lunatics here. I don't need any more. I know how he feels. So he got rid of him, and now he's come back again. And as we can see in verse 3, David dwelt with Achish in Gat, he and his men. And so then what happened was, after he'd been there for a while, we got to the situation where David had, if you like, shown his credentials to Achish, that he was loyal to Achish. And we got to verse 5 in the, well, actually, we got to verse 7, but we're going to start at verse 5 just to remind us where we were up to. So when you're ready, Jeffrey, verse 5, please.
David said to Achish, if I have found favor in your eyes, let them give me a place in one of the towns of the countryside, that I may settle there. Why should your servant dwell in the royal city with you? So Achish gave him Ziklag on that day. That is why Ziklag belongs to the kings of Judah to this day. The number of days that David dwelled in the Philistine countryside was 4 months and 2 days.
Okay, stop there. That's what we did last time. You will remember that we had a whole discussion about this word Yamim v'arba chadashim, which Jeffrey has just translated as 4 months and 2 days.
Want to share the screen, Johnny? Sorry.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Thank you for reminding me.
We've all got
there.
Sometimes better.
There we are. Okay, so we're over here. We had, you remember last time we had a discussion about this expression Yamim, which Jeffrey translated as 2 days. On my translation here, it's got brackets some days, and we talked about it meaning a year, remember? And we were talking about it being Yamim being a year. And right at the end of the last shiur, David Marks pointed out that right at the beginning of Sefer Shmuel, we have the word Yamima, when the husband of Hannah, Elkanah, used to go up once a year to the temple. Let me show it you. Let me show it you. Because this is what we ended on last time. Shmuel Aleph chapter 1. There we go. Right, Jeffrey, on the screen, please. This is you read this for us 5 weeks ago. Can you believe it's 5 weeks since we last learned Shmuel Aleph? The first 3 verses, please.
And then there was one.
Wait a minute. No, do I want? Yes, the first 3 verses.
And there was one man from Ramathaim, Zophim, from Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuth, an Ephraimite. And he had 2 wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the second was Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And that man was once up to go from his city from appointed time to appointed time to prostrate himself and to slaughter peace offerings to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And there the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Pinchas, were serving the Lord.
Okay, and there's our word. This is what David pointed out to us last time. Miyamim, there we go. Miyamim yamima. Miyamim yamima. Translated here as appointed time to appointed time. And it means on a yearly basis. Elkanah and his wives would go up on a yearly basis. And this, of course, is when Hannah did her famous prayer, for which she was answered, and then Shmuel was born. So this is right at the beginning of our Sefer Shmuel. I can't even remember when we did it. Must be months and months and months ago. But David quite correctly remembered this expression, miyamim yamima, and it means on a yearly basis. And the reason that we stress this so much, that we're back there on the screen now to our chapter, is that Michael Krauss pointed out last time that 4 months and 2 days was not a very long time for David to convince Achish that he was such a good fellow and a loyal fellow. And it was more likely to be a longer period of time. And we spoke about this being many of the commentaries saying Yamim va'arba chodoshim was actually a year and 4 months, as opposed to 4 months and 2 days. So either way, it was a significant period of time, we think, that David was with Achish, such that Achish now trusted him. And the last pasuk that we did last time was verse 8, and we're going to read that again, verses 8 and 9 in a second, and then I will remind you of a question that Barbara asked us last time. She's not here today, but she will be listening to the recording. I wonder whether she remembers the question she asked, but I heard it last night, so I remember it from then. And I'll tell you what it was in a minute. Jeffrey, verse 8 and 9, please, from chapter 27.
David and his men went up and spread out against the Geshurite and the Gizrite and the Amalekite, for they were the original inhabitants of the land from where you approach shore until the land of Egypt. David would smite the land and would not leave a man or woman alive. He would take sheep and cattle and donkeys and camels and clothing, and would return and come to Achish. Achish would ask.
Stop there. So David and his men would go and raid Geshurites and the Gizerites and the Amalekites. Now they were in the south. I put up a map last time. I couldn't find it again. I don't know where I got it from, but I couldn't find it last night when I was looking for it again. But basically, you know where Achish was? Achish was in Gat. You know where Gat was, because we've said it many, many times. It was one of the cities of the Plishtim. And these Geshurites and Gizerites and Amalekites were south. Now, north of them was Yehudah, the Jewish people, the Israelites. Okay, so David was in the Philistine territory, and he was going raiding south. I need to try and find that map. Let me try and find it again now.
That, Johnny, 12 tribes of Israel.
No, it's not that one actually. It was a blue one.
Okay.
And I found it.
It's got gas on it anyhow.
Yeah. I found this map last time, and I can't just. Oh, there it is. There it is. Found it. Oh, it doesn't like me. Okay, the Holy Bible it's sending me to. No, I don't want that. Thank you. Don't want that. That's what I want. I don't know if you can see. Let's try it over here. Maybe I can get it. I double up that one.
It's readable.
Is that readable over here?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the map I had up last time. I managed to get it in big last time. I don't know why I can't get it in big now. But anyway, if you can see it, that's good. I can see it clearly. There's Gat, right? There's Hebron. There's Ein Gedi. so all of this stuff here is Philistines. You can see that. There's the Gizerites, and there's the Geshurites, and there's the Amalekites, right? So you can see here's Ziklag, where there was a dispute whether Ziklag is here or here. It doesn't matter. It's in one of these places. You can see from this map that David was raiding southwest. Okay, he's going south and west, right? North and east is up here. And where's up here? There's Bethlehem is Yerushalayim. He's up here. Well, probably about there on the map. So I just want you to bear that in mind, that what David was doing was he was going down in this area, raiding these areas, killing all the women and children, which was not, by the way, something that you did in those days. You killed the men, and you took the women and children captive, and you took the spoil. You didn't kill the women and children. He did, and we'll see why in a moment. So he was going down there, but I want you to bear in mind that the kingdom of Yehuda, under the kingship of Shaul, is up here, right? Okay, so let's go back to the, let's go back now and see what was going on. So David and his men would go and raid those areas, and he would smite the inhabitants, and he would kill them all, man and woman, and then he would take the booty, sheep, cattle, donkeys, camels, and clothing, and what would he do with it? He came to Achish. He brought the booty to Achish. Now, the question that Barbara asked last week at the end, and I didn't give her an answer, and I said, you'll have to wait until we do go on, was, did Achish know that David was doing this? And did David do it with Achish's permission? Or was it under Achish's command? So, that was the question she asked. Let's go on and see what Achish actually said. So David turns up with all these goodies from his raids, and he presents it to Achish, ostensibly his king, the one to whom he is loyal. And what does Achish say? Verse 10, Jeffrey.
Achish would ask, where did you raid today? And David would say, against the south of Judah, or against the south of Jeramelite, or against the south of the Kenite. And
Stop there. So what has David done? Let's go back to our little map. What has David done? When Achish said to him, thank you very much for all this lovely spoil that you've brought me. And where did this all come from? Where did it come from? Well, it came from the Girizites, the Geshurites, and the Amalekites. That's what we've just been told. But what did David say? He lied, and he told Achish that it had come from the south of Yehuda, which is up here. Northeast to where he is, but south of Judah. Okay, south of Judah. So, and also the Yerachmeelites, there they are, and the Kenites. So David has said to Achish that he has attacked the Kenites, the Yerachmeelites, and Yehuda, and Israel. Now, was that true? No, it was not true. Why? Go back to the Psukim. Why did David say that? Yes, Jeffrey.
No, it says here, Jonathan, against the south of Judah. And then he names the south of Judah, the Jeramelite.
No, it's not. He's not saying the south of Judah, which are the Yerachmeelites and the Keni. Look at the Hebrew and in the English. David said, Al Negev Yehuda, the south of Yehuda, the al Negev Yerachmeeli, and the south of Yerachmeeli, ve'el Negev Hakeni. Let's go back to the map. He said, I attacked the south of Judah, which is up here. You can't see it on this map. I attacked the south of Judah, which is here, the south of the Canaanites, and the south of Yerachmeelites. The point is that the most important point is that he said to Achish that he had attacked Judah, which he didn't, right? He made out to Achish that all the goodies that he was giving to Achish was from Judah, Kenites, and Yerachmeelites. Who were the Kenites, by the way? Anybody know who the Kenites were? They were a group. David, do you know who the Kenites were? I'm sure you do.
Of Yisrael.
They were the descendants of Yitro.
They were the descendants of Yitro, and they were in a pact with the Israelites. And where do we read about them? Which particular famous person do we read about?
Yitro.
No, in Tanakh. In Tanakh. David?
Yael.
Yael. Remember Yael of tent peg fame? Yael, who drove the tent peg into the head of whom?
The king.
Sisera. Remember Sisera? He was the king that was fighting with the Israelites at that time. Yael, he came to Yael's tent. Yael managed one way or another, we won't go into details, one way or another to get him to sleep. And while he was asleep, she drove a tent peg into his head. She was part of the Kenites. The Kenites had a pact with the people of Yehuda. Now, the important thing about this, where we're up to here, is that David told Achish that he had attacked Judah. That's the most important thing. He'd attacked Judah, which then leads Achish to believe what?
That he's loyal to Achish.
Correct. That David has effectively defected from Yehuda to Achish. And David is now loyal to Achish and is no longer loyal to Yehuda. Now, it's not unreasonable for Achish to believe that. Why not? Why might Achish believe that?
Because he's given him protection.
Well, he's given him protection. He's also given him booty. But who was in charge of Yehuda at the time?
Saul.
And everybody knows that David and Saul were enemies. Or at least everybody knows that Shaul hated David. He was chasing him. Everybody knew that. So it's not unreasonable for Achish to believe that David has defected from Yehuda, run by Shaul, his enemy, and is now loyal to Achish. And he has proved his loyalty, in inverted commas, he has proved his loyalty by attacking his former people, Yehuda. Only that isn't true, but that's what he told Achish. Now, I'm going to ask you a question without you looking at verse 11, because I've taken it off the screen now. I'm going to ask you a question. Why did David commit war crimes, even according to those days, and kill all the women and children when you're not meant to do that? You're only meant to kill the men, and you're meant to take the women captive. Why did he go and kill all the women from his raids where he went into the Gezerites and the Amalekites and all the other ites that he went after? Why did he do that, Jeffrey?
Well, they obviously were in league with Amalek, with the Amalekites, and he treated them accordingly.
So they would have told the truth, the women.
No witnesses.
That's right.
Yeah,
you kill all. You're all correct. Look at verse 11, Jeffrey. Please read that for us.
And David would not leave alive any man or woman to bring back captive to Gath, saying to himself, lest they inform about us, saying, this is what David did, and this has been his practice all the days it has been dwelling in the Philistine countryside.
Right, stop there. So that's exactly right, as you all said. The reason that he didn't leave anybody alive was so that there were no witnesses, because he's just told them he's just told Achish that he's been raiding into Yehudah. So if these people come to Gath as prisoners to Achish, and Achish says, "Oh, that's nice. Thank you very much for all these captives. Where are you from, Mrs. Captive?" And she says, I'm from Amalek, or I'm from the Grizim, or I'm from wherever. What they won't say is, I'm from Yehudah. So they would have spilled the beans. They would have said, so this is what David has done. And David's what's the word I'm looking for? David's lies, I suppose, would have been exposed by these people. So what do you do?
He would have found out eventually, surely. The whole place is deserted all of a sudden.
Well, you'd have thought so, but unless he went there, why would he find out? Because there's nobody there. He's killed them all.
No, but somebody would go there and would have found out.
Maybe.
Somebody would have got back to him.
You know, maybe, but
maybe that's why he was only there 4 months. Because if it went on for too long, possibly people would have found out.
Maybe, but they didn't. That's the fact, is they didn't, because look at one sec, Jeffrey, I'll come to you in a sec. Just read verse 12 for us, Jeff.
And Achish believed David, thinking, he has really come to anchor his people, and he will be my servant always.
So Achish believed him. Vaya amen Achish. You can see the word amen in there. He believed him.
I've got a question.
1 second, Hannah, 1 second. So Achish believed him. There was no reason for him not to believe him. Nobody had yet come back and said it's not true. David left nobody alive so that they could spill the beans. Achish says to himself, makes sense. He hates his people now. He has greatly abhorred, he has greatly hated his people, presumably because of what Shaul has done to him, or has tried to do to him, saying, that's great, I've now got David as my servant forever. And Achish believed him. Jeffrey, you wanted to say something.
Yes, it's reverting back to the map where you pointed to the top of the map saying Yehudah, the tribe of Yehudah was north. Now, the tribe of the area where David was marauding was the wilderness of Yehudah. And I don't think he lied. He was in the wilderness. There were other people there. And that's who he was marauding against.
It's not true.
Not the tribe of Yehudah.
It's not true. He was over here, which is not in the territory of Yehudah. Let's get the territories back up again. Let's get the territories back up. So what's this map here? Does that help us? Yeah, that helps us. Yes, that's a good map. Let's see if we can get that one up. Oh, it wants to take us to that.
Yeah, but the kingdom of Saul was Ephraim, wasn't it?
This is the kingdom of Saul, okay, which is here's Yehudah. You can see there. I don't know if you can see. It might be a bit small.
Yeah,
there's Yehudah. So Yehudah only goes as far. Yehudah, there's Ziklag where David was, and David was actually going down here. There's Amalek, and over here. Over here are the Geshurites and the Gizurites, right, where he was going. What he said was he was going to the Canaanites and Judah, which he wasn't. But the important fact was he told Achish that he had attacked his own people, and he hadn't. He had not done that. And that's the important part. He tricked Achish. Now, you'll see in the next chapter that although Achish was tricked, the Philistine warlords were not buying it at all. But we'll come to that in a minute. The important thing for the moment is that David, and Tanakh is critical of David for killing everybody for his own purposes. His own purposes was that they should not spill the beans that he's not told the truth. So, you know, if I tell you, I'll have to kill you. And he did. He killed the whole lot of them. And that was not an appropriate thing to do. And the Mefarshim are critical of David on that. Hannah, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I wanted to ask, why didn't Achish ask David, where are the women and children?
Don't know. He was happy to have the sheep and cattle and donkeys and camels. Maybe he thought that David had kept the women for himself, and maybe that was reasonable, he thought. Don't know.
Okay.
Fair question.
Okay.
Fair question. I don't know. But the fact is that the main part of this that we're trying to get, that Tanakh is trying to tell us here, is that David raided a certain area and tricked Achish into thinking that he, David, was now loyal to Achish and was anti-loyal to Yehuda, to the kingdom of Saul.
It's also not the first time that David tricks anybody, because he played the crazy man when he came to seek refuge, and when
he did. You're right, and at that time, the Philistine warlords didn't believe him either. It was Achish that believed him, that he was a lunatic, and said, get rid of him. I've got enough nutters. I don't need any more. And the warlords didn't believe him. And as you'll see when we go on in a minute, the warlords didn't believe him this time either. So as we are here at the end of the chapter, Achish believes David, and he thinks he's got David on his side. David has convinced him that he is now loyal to Achish and not loyal to Shaul and Yehuda. Now, as we know, the chapters are split up by, not by us, but by the Christian scholars, and they've mucked up here because they made the chapter 28, starting at chapter 28, 2 psukim too early. I'm going to whiz you on to chapter 28 now. There it is. The first 2 psukim belong to the last chapter. No idea why the Christian scholars made this chapter break here. It should be after the first 2 psukim. So the first 2 psukim belong to the last chapter. So we will do them together with the last chapter. Off you go, Jeffrey, please.
Why don't we put them back in the right place then?
Because it's too late. Everybody's using those chapters now. So you know, once you start messing with the chapters, then whenever, like in the Pirkei Avot shir, right? Yeah. I'm using a particular version of Pirkei Avot, where the Mishnah that I did yesterday was Perek Gimel Mishnah Hey. But in the Mishnayos that we've got in the shul there, it's Perek Gimel Mishnah Vav, because they've split up the Mishnayos in different orders, and it's really confusing. I'm using one book, they're using another. So imagine you've got all the chapters in Tanakh which have been quoted for forever. If I said to you, right, chapter 28, Shmuel Aleph, chapter 28, verse 1, you'll know exactly where I mean. If I say chapter 27, verse 13, you'll go to it and say, well, there isn't one. So it's too late, basically. I dare say somebody might try it, but it'll be very hard to catch on. It's a bit like, you know, trying to change decimalization. That was a bit of a job, wasn't it?
South puts the 2 psukim in a separate little paragraph.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So it really, they belong in the previous chapter. So we'll deal with them in the previous chapter, and then we'll start the new story, which is the chapter of 28 at verse 3. So we need to do verse 1 and 2. Jeffrey.
It happened in those days that the Philistines mobilized their camps to the army to fight against Israel, and Achish said to David, know that you will go forth with me to the camp, you and your men.
Stop there.
Okay?
Stop there. So Achish is now very confident. Now you can see why it belongs in the last chapter, can't you? Achish is confident that David, who has proved himself to be a jolly good soldier and has proved himself to be loyal to Achish, according to Achish at least, he's convinced. And he says, oh, we're going to war. You will go with me, you and your men. You'll be part of my army. And how does David respond? Verse 2.
David replied to Achish, therefore you shall see what your servant will do. Achish then said to David, therefore I will appoint you as my permanent bodyguard.
Okay, stop there. So here is David speaking with forked tongue, okay? Because David says, thank you very much, Achish. You'll see what I'll do, what your servant will do for you. And what did Achish think? He thinks that David is saying, that's a great, I'm in, count me in, I'm there. You'll see, I will be your best guy. And Achish, that's how Achish understands that comment of David, and he makes him into his permanent bodyguard. Who do you have as your permanent bodyguard? Your most loyal and your most brave and your most reliable soldier. So Achish is completely taken in. What David really meant when he said that was, you idiot. Now you'll see what I'll do, right? I've pulled a real fast one on you. But it doesn't actually happen because let's just skip verse 3 for the minute. Well, let's just skip to the whole lot until, where do I need to go to? Probably the next chapter. Hang on a minute, let me just find it. Yes, let's just skip that story now for a minute and go to chapter 29 and read the first few psukim of chapter 29. I'll come back to chapter 28 shortly. Jeffrey, chapter 29, please. The first 8 psukim. Yeah, 8 or 9 psukim.
The Philistines mobilized their entire army to Aphek, and Israel was encamped by the spring that is in Jezreel. The governors of the Philistines were passing by with hundreds and thousands, and David and his men were passing at the rear with Achish. The Philistine officers said, what are these Hebrews doing here? And Achish replied to the Philistine officers, is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me for these days or these years, and I have found no fault with him from the day he encamped with me until this very day. But the Philistines...
Stop there for a sec, Jeff. So you can see what's happening here. The Philistine leaders have said to Achish, remember, Achish is what? The king of Gath. Okay, remember, when we say the king, he was really the mayor, right? So he was the king of Gath, but he wasn't the king of the whole Plishtim, right? There's people much more senior to him. And they're saying to him, oi, Achish, what are these Jews doing here? And Achish says, don't worry, David's a loyal fellow. He's been with me for these long period of time. Yamim again, Yamim, Ozeshanim, Yamim, days, years, whatever. He's been with me a while, and he's a top guy. I've found no fault with him. He's a top guy. Verse 4, Jeffrey.
But the Philistine officers were angry with him, and the Philistine officers said to him, send this man back and let him return to the place that you assigned to him. Let him not go down to battle with us, so that he not be an antagonist to us in the battle. With what can this person ingratiate himself to this Lord? It is not with the heads of these our men. Is
okay,
this
stop
not
there. Stop there. Stop there. No, carry on. Verse 5, sorry.
Is this not David, of whom they sing with the timbrels, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands?
So you can see that the Philistine officers are not having any of it. They don't trust him, and they're right not to trust him. And although this was a good ruse of David's to be able to Trojan horse himself really into the Philistine army, Achish bought it, but the Philistine warlords were not buying it at all, and they said, no, he's not coming with us, send him back. And they did not want him anywhere near it because they didn't trust him, lest he become an adversary to us in the battle. They were worried that they were going to go into battle and he would turn around and basically be a Trojan horse to the Philistines, and they weren't having it. And they said they reminded Achish that David had previously slaughtered tens of thousands, maybe literally, maybe not literally, but a lot of Philistines. And the women had come out and sang this. You remember what this song that they sang? Saul has slain his thousands, David his 10,000s. Saul got his knickers in a twist about this. He didn't like it because the women were praising David 10 times more than they were Saul. So so they're not having it at all. So Achish had no choice. Achish was only a minor knacker. He was a knacker in Gat, but he wasn't a major knacker, and he had to listen to them. And verse 6, Jeffrey?
Before he does that, Achish can't have trusted his fellow Philistines. To trust David more than his fellow Philistines, it seems rather amazing.
I think, yeah, it's a fair question, but I think the answer is probably that all of these places, Gat, Ashkelon, Gaza, Ashdod, Lachish, Gat, they were all individual places, and it was almost like a United States, a confederation, and each of them had their own little army, and Achish had supplemented his army with David, and therefore, as I said before, when he came into this whole, federal thing, he wasn't such a big knacker as he was in his hometown, and he didn't have the power to overcome the Philistines. I don't think he didn't trust them. I don't think he wanted David with him because he trusted David. He knew David and he trusted him foolishly more. But the Philistines were not having it. So if you have a look at verse 6, Jeffrey, it'll tell us what Achish had to do.
So Achish called David and said to him, as Hashem lives, you are an upright person, and your going forth and coming in with me in the camp would have been fine with me, for I have found nothing wrong with you from the day of your coming to me until this very day. But in the eyes of the governors, you are not good. So now return and go in peace, and do not do what is wrong in the eyes of the Philistine governors.
Okay, stop there. So you can see Achish says, sorry, David, I think you're a good fellow, but my bosses don't. So you better go. And David tries very hard to fight back, as it were. Verse 8.
David then said to Achish, but what have I done? And what fault have you found with your servant from the day that I have been before you to this very day, that I should not come and fight against the enemies of my lord the king? So Achish answered and said to David, I know, for in my eyes you are as good as an angel of God. But the Philistine officers have said, he shall not go up with us into battle. So now arise early in the morning, along with the servants of your Lord who came with you. All of you arise early in the morning, and when it becomes light enough for you, go. So David and his men arose early to leave in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines, while the Philistines ascended to Jezreel.
Okay, and that is the end of that. David had a ruse to try and inculcate into the army of the Philistines in order to assist the Jewish people, the Israelites, in their battle against the Philistines, and it didn't work. And he was sent back, packing back to Ziklag, and we'll see in chapter 30 and 31 what happened. But we need to do 28 first. So chapter 28, which we haven't yet done, is out of place. What should have happened is we should have let's go just back to that for a minute. What we should have done, if we were doing this chronologically, is we should have had these two verses. The beginning of chapter 28 should have been tagged on to chapter 27, and then chapter 29 should have come before chapter 28. But it's a bit like one of those clever novels where you've got all sorts of subplots going on all at once, and then it all gets tied in together at the end, because chapter 28 is a subplot. What we've just been learning in chapter 27 and chapter 29 is the story of David and Achish. But going on at the same time is Shaul's life. During chapter 27 and chapter 29, we haven't heard of what Shaul is up to. We only know what David's been up to. David went to Achish. He then raided all those places, pretended it was from Judah, came and gave Achish the spoils, persuaded Achish he was a good chap, inculcated himself into Achish's inner circle, and then tried to get in on the battle and was sent packing, as we've just heard. That was one story. In the middle of that story, inserted in chapter 28, is what was going on in Shaul's life at the same time. And that starts on verse 3. Remember, verses 1 and 2 belong at the end of chapter 27. Chapter 29 is the continuation of chapter 27. And chapter 28 is now, what we're going to do now, we'll start it. We'll start it, and we'll carry on, obviously, next time. We'll start and see what Shaul was up to at the same time. Now, verse 3, the story now of Shaul's life, coming to the end of Shaul's life, actually. Let's see what was going on. Verse 3.
Samuel had died, and all Israel eulogized him and buried him in Ramah, in his hometown. Saul had banished the necromancers and the Yidoni diviners from the land. Stop there.
Stop there. Okay. Now, we need to pick apart this first pasuk because it's very important. This is the background to what we're going to learn about now. The first thing we need to see is Shmuel met, and Samuel, translated here as had died. I think you said the same thing, Jeffrey, didn't you? Samuel had died.
I did.
It's in the past perfect. It doesn't mean, it can be translated as Shmuel met. Can be translated how? How would you translate that?
He's dead.
Shmuel, what did you say, Johnny?
Shmuel is dead. Dead.
Shmuel is dead. Yes, Shmuel met. Shmuel is dead. But it can also be translated as we have here, and this is its meaning. Shmuel had died. It doesn't mean Shmuel has died, meaning he's just died. That would be Vayamat Shmuel. Okay? Shmuel met means either in the present tense, Shmuel is dead, or Shmuel had died. And it's important because that is telling us the background. We know Shmuel had died. We learned it a few chapters ago, didn't we? That Shmuel had died. Shmuel is dead. Vayispedu lo kol Yisrael, and all of Israel lamented him. Vayikberuhu, and they buried him. Beramah, in Ramah, be'iro, and in his city. What does that mean? In Ramah and in his city. He was buried twice. Where is?
How doesn't we use the word and as he says, in his city?
Yeah, correct. But that's not what it says, is it?
No.
What does it say?
Let's see.
It says Vayikbaruhu barama u be'iro. What does u mean at the beginning of a word?
Yeah, and.
Okay. So my question remains: where was he buried? Did they bury him in Ramah, or did they bury him in his city, or did they bury him twice? Where is Ramah, or what is Ramah? Or question another way: what does it mean? His city. Where was Shmuel's city? Where did he live?
It was northwest of Jerusalem.
It was. Where? What was it called? Where Shmuel lived?
It was called Ramah.
It was called Ramah. Very good, Jeffrey. So why do we have an u here? It should have said Vayikbaruhu v'Ramah v'Iro, or Vayikbaruhu v'Iro v'Ramah. They buried him in his city in Ramah. Why u v'Iro? It doesn't make sense, and that's why our translation on the screen has got some brackets there, and it's a very nice brackets. It's a very good way of dealing with it. Steinsaltz has dealt with it by ignoring it and pretending it isn't there, which is another way of dealing with it. But this is a better way of dealing with it. And he said, and each one lamented him in his own city. So not his own city, meaning Shmuel's own city, but the lamentation went on in everybody's city. Better translation, no, Johnny? You agree?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice. It's a clever way of giving us the explanation, because you can't just stick an "u" in somewhere and then ignore it. You've got to do something with it. So I think that's rather nice. Now, the next part of the sentence is very important. Let's just read it again, Jeffrey. The second part of verse 3.
Saul had banished the necromancers and the Yidoni diviners from the land.
Who are these necromancers and Yidoni diviners, please?
The soothsayers.
Soothsayers, that's right. And what about them?
Well, I think that Shmuel didn't think much of them.
Why not? Why did he get rid of them?
Doing forbidden things.
Who were doing forbidden things?
These individuals.
They were sort of false prophets.
They were false prophets. They were doing forbidden things. Let me show you Parashat Kedoshim. And if you pay attention this coming Shabbat, you will be able to see it, because it happens to be this week's Parasha. There it is on the screen for you. It is in Parashat Kedoshim. Read it for us, Jeffrey, verse 27. Oh, where's Jeffrey gone? There you go. Jeffrey, verse 27 on the screen. On the screen.
And a man or a woman who has the sorcery of or Yidoni and shall surely be put to death. They shall pelt him with stones. Their blood is upon themselves. Okay,
you're not allowed to have these people. These sorcerers, these Ov and Yidoni people, were not allowed. The Torah tells us very clearly in Parashat Kedoshim, this week's Parasha, that anybody, and note a man or a woman, so you can have male sorcerers and female sorcerers, okay? They had to be put to death. You weren't allowed to have them. What else weren't you allowed to have in the same category of an Ov or Yidoni? What else in that same category are we told shall not live? One of my father's favorite words, if you can remember it, Jeffrey. Machshefa. Machshefa. Machshefa lo techayeh. A witch is not allowed to live. Machshefa, Ov and Yidoni all go in the same categories.
Well, didn't he go to the witch of Endor?
Whoa. Slow down. That's our chapter. That's our
Oh.
chapter.
Sorry.
Anita's jumping the gun. You're absolutely right. I'm setting the scene here, Anita. I'm setting the scene. You just gave us a spoiler.
Sorry.
Yes, machshefas are not allowed. You can't have a witch, and you can't have ovs, and you can't have yidonis. They should surely be put to death. And in case you missed it in Parashat Kedoshim, you also get it in where, David?
Shoftim.
Thank you. Shoftim. There it is on the screen. Verse 9 on the screen for you, Jeffrey, please.
When you have come to the land the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to do like the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who passes his son or daughter through fire, a soothsayer, a diviner of auspicious times, one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or
there you go. There's your word. There's machshef, by the way. Machashef. That's the male version of a machshefa. Machashef. Okay, carry on, Jeffrey. Verse 11.
Or a charmer, a python sorcerer, a Yedoah sorcerer, or a necromancer. For whoever does these things, it is an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God is driving them out from before you.
Johnny, can I ask you a question?
No, not
What's
yet. One sec. Let me just finish these psukim, Philip, and then I'll come to you.
Okay.
Go on, Jeff.
Be wholehearted with the Lord your God, for these nations which you are to possess hearken to diviners of auspicious times and soothsayers. But as for you, the Lord your God has not given you things like these.
Stop there for a sec, just for a sec. So he says that the Torah says, you very clearly, it's just used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 psukim, which is a lot. The Torah for 6 psukim has said all this nonsense of soothsayers and all that nonsense and necromancers, which I'll come to in a sec for Philip. You're to have nothing to do with them. Who are you to listen to? Verse 15, Jeffrey. Verse 15.
A prophet from among you, from your brothers, like me, the Lord your God, will set up for you. You shall hearken to him.
So Moshe's telling the people, you don't listen to all these soothsayers and all these Yidonis and Ovs and Machshefas and all that lot. The only one you listen to is a prophet like me. Like me. Who was a prophet like Moshe? Well, we say no. We say there was no prophet like Moshe, don't we? We say it in Yidal, right? But who was the closest thing to Moshe? Shmuel. Correct. Shmuel. So what is Moshe saying here? Moshe is saying is almost as if he's speaking to Shaul. Don't listen to these necromancers and soothsayers and Ovs and Yidonis. Listen to Shmuel. That's the message here in Parashat Shoftim. Now, Philip, you asked me what's a necromancer. A necromancer, the word necro, what does necro mean?
Death.
So a necromancer is somebody who contacts the dead and gets messages from the dead.
Like a medium.
Yeah, exactly. It's a necromancer is a medium who deals with the dead. That is the word necromancer. Okay. So let's go back. We've got a few minutes still. Let's go back to our chapter. And Shaul had got rid of all these people, right? Shaul had abolished necromancers and those who divine with the Yedoah bone from the land. So is Shaul a good guy?
Well, Shaul had banished them.
Yeah, so is that good?
Pepon?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yes.
Yes. One tick for Shaul. He's done as he's told. He was told, get rid of the prophet, these false prophets, these soothsayers, these machshefas, these people, these necromancers, get rid of them. And he got rid of them. Okay, that is the background. Now, verse 3 starts with to tell us that Shmuel had died. Okay, Shmuel had died. and he's got rid of all the necromancers. So who is he going to listen to? Who's he going to turn to for advice? He's not got Shmuel, because Shmuel has died, and he's not got any of these necromancing people, because he's got rid of all of them. So who's he going to ask?
God.
That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Go and ask God. And how do you do that, Johnny?
God will let you know.
Okay.
God will let you know.
God will let you know how. How would he let you know?
I don't know, in a dream.
Through
Or...
the
In a
Kohen.
dream.
Through
In
the
a
high
dream.
priest.
Okay. One way is in a dream. Another way is via the Kohen. What did the Kohen use?
Oh,
Or
the
Urim
Urim
v'Tumim.
The Urim v'Tumim. Okay. And what else? One other way you could do it. There's three ways you could do it. One is get a dream from Hashem. Second one is the Urim v'Turim, and the third one,
a voice, a holy
Prophet.
voice.
find
A
another
voice.
prophet. Find another prophet. Okay. Now let's see what he did. Okay. Now let's just see verse 4 and 5. Jeffrey, please.
The Philistines mobilized. They came and encamped at Shunem. And Saul mobilized all Israel, and they encamped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine camp, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly.
Stop there. Stop there. So now he is scared. For a big fellow, he gets scared quite often. Shaul. When else do we hear that he was scared previously? When else?
When he had to face Goliath.
Yes, let's have a look at that. Who knows what chapter it is? Have a guess. Go on, have a guess.
20.
Not bad.
Well, 19.
17.
17.
There it is. There it is on the screen for you. Verse 11 on the screen, Jeffrey.
And Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, and they were panic-stricken and very much afraid.
Yeah, this was
And David
Goliath.
was the son of this Ephraimite man from Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse.
Yeah. We don't need all that stuff.
And he had 8 sons.
Yeah, we don't need that. We know what happened. David came along and chopped his head off after he'd slung a stone at him. So Saul was afraid. He's afraid again. Now, what does he do? He does a good thing. He goes and does what we've just said. Verse 6.
Saul inquired of Hashem, but Hashem did not answer him, neither in the dream, nor through the Urim, but Tumim, nor through the prophets. So Saul said,
Stop there. So he did the right thing, didn't he? You all worked it out that Shmuel's not alive. So what's he meant to do? He's meant to have a dream. He went to sleep and said before he went to sleep, God, come to me in a dream and tell me what to do. Garnished. He goes to the Urim. He asks a question. Garnished. Urim doesn't answer either. He goes to the prophets. Which prophets? Where did he find prophets? I've got another question for you in a minute, but just this one. Where did he find prophets?
well, he didn't find them, did he? So he went to a woman.
Oh, no. You've read on. You're not allowed to read on. At this point, it said he inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by the prophets. Who were the prophets that he went to? Didn't answer.
The Samaritans?
No. Remember, back in the day, when Shmuel was still alive, Shaul came along and all these people were prophesying. Remember? And Shaul was prophesying. He took all his clothes off. Remember that story? Shaul took all his...
The fools, the shotim.
They were prophets. It says, Vayitnaba'u, they were prophesying.
Yeah.
Those were the prophets that he went to. Now then, I've got another question. Anybody that gets the answer to this question will get a prize, which will be donated by Philip. Okay? The prize is a private lesson with Philip, if you get this question right. What is the problem with this question here, with this pasuk here? 6. Saul inquired of the Lord through dreams, through the Urim, and through the prophets. We know about dreams and we know about prophets. We've just worked out who the prophets were. How did he get to the Urim? What's the problem with the Urim here?
He needs the high priest.
He needs the Urim V'Turim. He needs the high priest. And where were the Urim at this point?
They were in the temple in the Mishkan.
Didn't he have them all
The
killed?
Mizbeach.
Okay, so he had all the prophets, all the priests killed in Nov. That's correct. And you would think Jeffrey would be right that the Urim would be hanging about in the Mishkan. But where was the Urim at this stage? Who had the Urim? Who had the Urim?
Did David take it?
He did take it. Well, no, he didn't take it. Somebody took it, and
Oh,
go on. I've had to give you too much help, so you're not having the lesson from Philip for this, but you're getting there.
his chief of staff. Didn't
I'm
go with him.
I'm going to ask Johnny who took it, because Johnny will know the answer to this. Johnny Halpin, who took the Urim and took it to David? I'll give you a clue. He sits next to you in Shaul.
Aviatar.
Eviatar, well done. Eviatar. Eviatar HaKohen. Not Eviatar Drucker, but Eviatar HaKohen.
Some of it, right?
Yeah, you did very well there, Anita. Well done. We all did well there. Okay. So that's a problem, by the way, because David had the Urim. So how could Shaul use the Urim? How did he do that? Well, I don't have an answer, and neither does the Radak. The Radak points out the problem, but doesn't have an answer for us. However, we shall leave it there because time is up. Although Anita has spoilt that cliffhanger a bit by telling us that Shaul actually goes and finds himself a necromancer, that is what we will learn next week. Any questions so far on the fascinating story? Let's just recap what we've done so that I know where we're up to. We finished off chapter 27, which was David's attempt at a Trojan horse to the Philistines. We did the first two psukim of chapter 28, which belongs at the end of chapter 27. And then we jumped to chapter 29 to see that the Philistine leaders were not buying this ruse of David's, and David had to go back. And then we went back to 28 to start the subplot of what Shaul got up to. And we set the scene by saying that Shmuel was no longer on the scene. Shaul was scared stiff, and he tried to get an answer from Hashem. He went to sleep and tried to get a dream, nothing doing. He went to the prophets, they couldn't help him. And somehow or other, we don't quite know how, because the Urim weren't there unless there was a spare set somewhere. He checked with the Urim V'Tumim and they didn't get an answer. And so at the moment, we don't know how Shaul is going to get an answer from God as to what to do about the Pelishtim who are about to attack him. That is where we will leave it. Any questions, comments?
Well, it's obvious God wouldn't answer him because he was no longer the chosen of God. It's David now.
Correct. That's exactly the case. And we will see that, and you'll see next time that is actually said almost explicitly. Almost explicitly, that is said. You're quite right. We know that. He didn't know that. He didn't accept it, did he? He still.
Oh, I think he knew he was a dead man walking.
Well, he did, but
That's
he
why
still.
he went seeking. That's why he went to seek the necromancer.
But he's still not accepted. When he goes asking God, he's still not accepted in his heart of hearts that it's over. He knows it's over in his head, but his heart is telling him it's not yet over.
Well, he was a
Not
desperate
over.
man, wasn't he? He was desperate.
Not over until he's dead.
Well, as you said, he was a dead man walking.
Exactly.
Desperate.
He'd been told, yeah, and he was desperate. Yeah, he was desperate. He's, no atheist in a foxhole. He's tried to find God in his desperation, and he ain't found him. So he goes.
He looked in the wrong place, didn't he?
Well, he looked in the right place. Only God wasn't interested in talking to him for the reason that Michael.
So then he moved on.
Well, then he moved on to the wrong place, but you're not meant to know that yet until next week. Okay, we'll do that next week, please God. We'll see what happened when he went to a place called Ein Dor. You have to find homework for next week. Find out where Ein Dor is, okay? Where the soothsayer of Ein Dor, because that's what we're going to learn next week. Okay, there's a little chat in here. Hannah was disconnected. All right. Okay, we'll see you. Oh, before, let me just stop the recording.